Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Film Crack.
Mm.
With myself, Nick, and himself there.
Bongo Boris.
That's the one. I'm gonna tell a little story. I'm gonna try to remember how we came to this place, and I'll get you. Yes, I'll get you to hold your comments till the end, Clive, in case I've misremembered anything. But I believe this is how it all went down, right?
Right.
So I was doing a little research about kind of 60s Eurocrime films. You know, I'm a big fan of Eurocrime, Clive. But mostly the 70s,
yes.
Mostly the 70s stuff, right? Your Umberto Lenzis and your Enzo G. Castellaris. But it turns out that in the 50s and 60s, there was quite a lot of, Italian crime film, right?
Can I just stop you there and say this is a lie?
I had discovered a film I hadn't seen. Right, 1962's Mafioso by a director called Alberto Latuada. And I got very excited. I haven't seen this before. It gets rave reviews. And I thought, well, if I haven't heard about it, it's probably not something, it's probably good fodder for Film Crack. So I brought this to Clive's attention, and Clive was like, unfortunately, Nick, no, it turns out that actually there is a Criterion disc, which is now out of print, but still doesn't really suit the parameters of what we do here. So I said, but I have an idea, Nick.
Right. Okay.
What if we attached to this an absolutely repulsive, filthy, deeply disturbing film that honestly, when you get to St. Peter, is the reason why that asterisk is inevitably beside your name. And I said, Clive, do we have to watch this? And Clive said, yes, unfortunately.
The reason this story is unfair is because you've painted a picture which is entirely believable. I think this is how people think this goes down. I'm the bad cop, you're the good cop. But, dear viewer, this is how it went down. Nick said to me, God, I found this film. God, it looks fucking... it looks so wrong. It looks so wrong. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna jump to 2 days later. My next choice for Film Crack is this dodgy.
Dear viewers, this is in no way true.
And then I said, "Oh no, Nick! I refuse to watch such film because that day I'm going to church and volunteering at the crippled retarded kids festival or whatever the fuck that I
see. This is why people will believe my version of events, Clive, so you know.
Yes, damn it. You've done well, Nick.
Yes.
But actually my version is true, believe it or not. And then I said, well, I was looking around, so this Alberto Latuada apparently has quite a good reputation. And I said, well, there's this other film called Mafioso, which is, and again, we can get away with it because we've got one film that fits Film Crack, and then seems a little lopsided. So should we also look at this other film that this film made that isn't quite as just wrong? Well, so I put in just to warn you before you get too excited, listeners. My main note for this thought is dodgy but dull, for me at least. But anyway, so what was the film that you chose, Nick? In fact, you didn't even choose it with your finger. I believe you pointed your penis towards it, and that's how you chose. Like that. What's the like the I Ching or something where you throw some sticks in the air and
yes.
And your cock landed on the DVD of...
No. As I said, none of this is true. But we'll talk about these films in chronological order anyway. So we will be talking about Mafioso 1962.
Oh, first. Okay.
My choice, and then we'll get to your choice, which is I think called "I'll Treat Her Like a Father."
Lies. You just remember what you said about St. Peter, young man, because he's got it all written down and he knows the truth. Yeah.
So
he'd say, Nick, you were going, because that's St. Peter's voice, obviously. Yes. You were going to get in, but then you told terrible lies about that wholesome young fellow, Clive. So you're not sorry. Down you go. That's how it goes.
That's how I'll sound indeed.
Yes.
Like a wooden puppet version of myself.
Yes.
So yes, anyway, Alberto, not on my radar for whatever reason.
Me neither.
Surprises me a little bit because having looked at his filmography. Well, for example, he co-directed Fellini's first film with Fellini.
Apparently so, yeah. Or I don't know. I read a couple.
Or like they did,
but he was involved in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he was also that part of that neorealist movement right after the war. He did do some stuff in that vein.
Yeah, and I'm going to say personally, well, actually, no. I mean, well, yeah, no, I will. I get ahead, but I really like the first of these two films.
Mafioso.
I really do like Mafioso. It was a bit of a revelation for me.
From 1962. This one.
Yeah. Both of these films are classified as comedies, which is amazing. And even more amazing is that the second one of these films we're going to talk about is classified as if you look it up, literally comes up, romantic comedy. So when you're thinking about romantic comedies, you think, when you add this to that list of Notting Hill, Love Actually, yes. You want to add Bambina, it's right there.
Yeah. When you finish all those Jennifer Aniston films,
yeah,
Bambina in your if you could, it does fit someone that fits the criteria because there is no there might be a disc in Italian, but you're not getting you can get a HD version, but you're not getting a subtitled HD version as a legit release, which is kind of I can see why people might be backing off from I don't think Criterion's
yes
to release this one.
As they were going through his filmography, maybe not. So Mafioso. I mean, should we talk about the plot before we get into what we liked or didn't like?
Yeah, I think we can do a slight plot run. I'm just wondering if we want to do spoilers or not, because I think this is something you could do without spoilers, but then there's a specific thing I'd like. Yeah, fuck it. Spoiler alert.
I think so. I think for that said, well, I mean, I will say that I think it's worth seeing. So I'm going to say, pause this right now, go watch the film, come back, and
yeah, I'll more or less go along with that. Although I have to admit, this is this doesn't happen to me often. I'm quite good at making my mind up about it. This is a film I will be watching again before I commit anything to paper, because I still have somewhat mixed feelings about it. But there's definitely interesting stuff in here. Let's put it.
So it's about this Sicilian fella, right? Who works in a factory somewhere up north, Milan.
It's in Milan. It's a Fiat factory, right?
Yes. I love the whole opening scene with all chassis parts. It was just hypnotizing to me.
I love a film that starts with a car factory, like a Blue Collar or anything like that.
Yeah, that big metal shavings coming off, looked like a kebab, but with like metal shavings coming off it. It was like fucking brilliant, totally immersive. And
I could watch an hour of that.
Yeah, me too. Which something's very wrong with us.
Of course there is. We watched Bambina.
That is true. So anyway, so he what he's called into is his boss's office, right? But he's going to take a couple of weeks holidays.
We should say as well, this is Alberto Sordio, like Latuada was someone I wasn't familiar with, but apparently a beloved icon of Italian cinema of this time.
Yes, yeah.
Are you familiar with him?
No, not at all, but he's good. I think he's good in a role that kind of requires him to be goofy in some ways, but then to have to turn on a dime to do something else.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'd quite like to see other films just to see, oh, I see, that's what he all is. If it's his shtick or if he's kind of has a bit more range. I don't really know. But certainly in this film, he seems ideally cast, right? Without knowing anything else about him. He does seem absolutely spot on.
His I did notice that, like, the weird little scene with the multilingual secretary in that, like, the office of the like the factory, right? Like, she seems to speak 4 different languages on the phone before she sends him in to talk to the boss. So the boss tells him, "Oh, since you're going home to your hometown in Sicily, I need you to bring a little gift to Don Vincenzo."
Having just seen Bambina before this as well, I was surprised there was no secretary molestation in this scene.
Yeah, I watched them the opposite, so I wasn't surprised by that.
I was thinking, oh, it must be cut this version. He didn't grab the ass.
Yes. Yeah, the two actors in a way there's a bit of overlap in the kind of, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
But anyway, yeah, so he's going to take his wife and kids. His wife has never met his Sicilian parents before, right? And the kids have never met their grandparents, right?
This is Norma Benguel, who was in at least 2 other fine films, in big roles. She's in Planet of the Vampires.
Really?
The Hellbenders.
Oh fuck! Okay, yeah. So those are both great.
Yeah.
Bava and Corbucci. And she's smoking cute. She's quite the MILF in this, particularly when she shows up in her bikini later on. And she's blonde, which is great. And both of her kids are like also just solid blonde, even though their dad has the blackest Sicilian hair you've ever seen. But anyway, yeah, they're all going to head down. They head down on the train. They take the ferry over to Sicily, and it's it becomes at the beginning a bit of a fish out of water, right? Story, like, his wife is uncomfortable. It's like she even refers to them leaving Italy, like, so that Sicily is not
right
in her mind.
And it's very broad. We'll get to this later when we get to why I kind of need to watch this again. But these opening scenes, they're so broad. They stop just short of comic sound effects on the soundtrack and not being in color. I think that's the other thing that makes the difference, is because it's because especially you're coming to a film that's on the Criterion collection, and it's in black and white, and you're approaching it more from like this is going to be a very serious meditation on the Cosa Nostra, which it kind of is in the end. But I think if you're set up for that, and then you're suddenly, oh, look, in Sicily we eat a lot of food. That's the big joke. Like that bit, like
sister has a mustache.
Yes, and she puts a giant steak on her plate, and then she said, "Oh, I only smoke after food." And they're like, "After food? That was just after." And you're like, "Oh, hang on, what's this film? Like, I didn't sign up for this." Yeah, and why is this? Yeah, his very hirsute, gorilla-ish sister, and all that stuff is made me think. So the other thing we should mention,
but I think that's really integral to why the film works. Then, when
so we'll get to that.
When there's leeching fucking evil, like,
what I just wanted to say about the sister character as well. I was wondering if originally this was set up to be a film by Marco Ferreri, right? Who wrote the original script, which was later adapted by these 2 other guys who were known for doing comedies. But Marco Ferreri, who made that film, The Ape Woman, right? About the woman who was like, so I'm wondering if he has a thing.
An interesting fetish.
Yeah, or just an interest in hirsute women in general. I thought it was kind of a bit of a odd coincidence. But anyway, yes, carry on.
So so you're right. Yeah, he has a big emotional meeting with his family, and then she's struggling with kind of feeling like, Sicily is, in a way, they've gone from modern Milan to a very rural, like almost like to a kind of feudalistic society, right?
Sicily.
Yeah, I spent some time there not that long ago.
I thought you had, so I was wondering.
So certain things were striking. There were certain scenes that I was like, oh, I wish this was in color, actually, because Sicily is outrageously beautiful.
I can imagine, yeah.
And so there's that one scene right near the beginning when he's first going down to his parents' village on the train, and they're going along the seaside. And I had seen, like, I'd literally been in that train, and I was like, oh my God, it hasn't really changed that much.
Right.
So yeah.
Because this whole sequence, when he basically not regresses, because that sounds negative, but when he kind of goes back from, because clearly now he's this modern Milanese what do you call him? He's like the shop
he's on the shop floor watching.
He's the head of yeah.
The white
very
coat.
serious kind of modern man, right? And then he suddenly starts like singing and being like, especially when using his hands, and he's he's like super Sicilian, right? And when you mama, and it's like, no, I'm your aunt. Oh, next to mama, and everything's just holy fuck. And I have to admit, I really identified with the wife character at this point, because as much as I've always really wanted to go to, and I'm sure it's obviously heightened to a certain extent. Plus, I wouldn't be going with someone and visiting their family, but I very much was in. I was like, oh fuck these. Oh no, I can't be dealing with this. This is too. This is too much, because I'm not big on huge shows of emotion, right, and people randomly bursting into song. And
although there's kind of funny, she does also, like, she kind of smirks a bit, because I feel like she does see a side of him that she obviously hasn't seen.
Yes.
So there, and she doesn't seem to hate it, but she's not happy, right? So there's part of the struggle begins him trying to make it, and him trying to kind of smooth things over between his parents, who also don't like her, right? And she's sensitive enough to immediately pick up that they don't like me, right?
But the other thing as well is like everyone in Sicily in this film seems to have a few country miles on them. Like his dad looks fucking ancient, and I think he's only supposed to be
one hand as well, which
is or something. But he looks like decrepit, but still, ready to get into a knife fight.
A knife fight over some land, yes.
It's just, I was wondering, I suppose, about this film, because that's the other reason I have to watch it again, and was these scenes in particular, and I'm not saying they're not, I'm just genuinely saying I don't know. And sometimes you can tell, you can intuit, but in this case it's throwing me off. I can't decide, number one, are these scenes authentic or not? And then two, are they actually supposed to be authentic or not? Like, are they deliberately heightened?
I think they're supposed to be broad. That would be my feeling. I think they're supposed to be broad, but
do you think there's also do you think they're broadly
yes. Yeah, I do. I don't. I think they're just amped up.
Okay.
And I think part of that is to kind of land the blows that the film lands later on. I think more in a way more effectively, because Dad is this kind of like sympathetic and goofy character until suddenly he's not. Like near the end of the film, you start you start getting into that kind of like that granular Sicilian stuff that is why the mafia were so successful and were able to, that whole Omerta, that whole
well, that stuff as well continues into. I was wondering how authentic that stuff was, but I managed to read around that a little bit, and it turns out, as unlikely as some of that stuff seems, apparently that's surprisingly plausible. Like what happens in the latter half of the film.
Yeah.
Because if you were to see it at first, you think that's
madness.
A bit far-fetched, it's but apparently there's some truth to that. Like that's not that out there.
So yes, you did mention that amazing scene where they go. So his dad is in this kind of fight with another local old fella who's promised to sell him some land, but now has gone back and jacked up the price because he said they found mineral water on the property somehow.
Old fella, he's actually only 40, but they look like that in Sicily.
And he's got a monk with him that looks like he's come right out of an Asterix comic. Like he's got this massive nose, and there's like the divining rod, and
I was expecting it to suddenly go Padre.
Yes, so there's an old codger knife fight. Well, because basically one of them calls the other one a cornuto, which I guess is a cuckold. Right. They don't actually translate it; they leave it in Italian, I guess, assuming that you'll know. But I did Google. I was like, I need to know what that word means. So, but like one of the things that is really effective is actually the score. Piero Piccone scored this, right? And there's this element of like creeping, like just unsettling stuff going on the soundtrack from quite early in the film.
Yes, right? I agree with you. For the first part of the film, and again, just when it gets to the second part, or actually the final third, I suppose, because it takes a long while. That's the other thing. Yeah, that first part, it's almost puts you off. So then so that's the thing, is overall I think it does have a cumulative effect, but I'm just wondering if the first 2/3 is a little overstretched before it gets to it. But anyway, we'll get to that.
Some of the stuff that's played for laughs though at the beginning is I think seeding, like you're like ha ha ha, oh wait a second.
No, I agree with you, but it's just,
you know,
that's why I want a second viewing, because now that I know what's coming, I'm wondering if I'll be able to appreciate.
He has a matter of factness in a way around things like that. His wife is, he kind of laughs him off, and his wife is genuinely shaken. Like when there's the guy, like they're having the wake or whatever for the guy, and then he's like, "Oh, what did I have?" And the answer, 2 bullets.
Yeah.
And then and his wife is kind of like, "Holy fuck, where have you taken me?" Right? And then the little kids like saying like "Baciamo le mani," like I kiss the hand. It's cute and it's not cute. It's a weird sign of obeisance and like.
But what I was going to say about the music was the other thing that's interesting. So in the second half, I agree with you the first half, but in the second half, it goes full like cool crime jazz. Like
at the very end, it does, which is kind of weird.
Like I was having flashbacks from that old if you remember that old Dick Tracy cartoon. Like the overhead view of the car.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of music.
Agreed.
It reminded me of that. I can't actually remember what the dictionary, but it was strange because I thought, oh, that's interesting. Because again, this film, on the one hand, has its foot in like it's more of a almost like a social realist crime drama, but this is playing as if this is like a pulp gangster thriller, right?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely has those elements.
And I thought, I'm sure that's deliberate, but it's an interesting. And again, because you're being slightly thrown by the what do you expect to find on although there's all sorts of things on Criterion now, but you know what I mean. It's so that's overall, again, that's why I want to go back and watch this kind of all that stuff's been washed away now, and I'm just going to watch the film for what it is, and then I'm going to reach a conclusion, I think.
But I would say there's chunks of the soundtrack too, which predate Morricone's giallo scores by a decade, but some of it, the dissonance, the weird fucking noise, like the parts where he's getting stressed or where we're starting to understand that things are getting bad and they're going to get worse for him, because this film is an exercise in a really effective use of like dramatic irony, like where we as an audience know something that our main character doesn't figure out till really too late, right? But we see it coming quite early in the film.
Yeah, he seems almost like a fucking moron, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
You're like, what? He's from there. Why the fuck hasn't he figured this out?
Yeah. The part where they take him out to do like target shooting or whatever at the like fair, and they're all like, oh yeah, he is a crack shot. He's still like, I want a teddy bear kind of.
At what point do you not say, hang on, I'm not going on holiday in a crate? What the fuck? Like,
yes, yeah, yeah, and also, I mean, the mafia, Don, he's really good. Ugo, whatever.
This is Ugo Atanasio. Yeah, well, again, and his performance as well, and that whole way that's shot, and leads me to believe, like, okay, this is a very ahead of his time in a way. Like, and I'm coming around to this as I'm speaking. Like I said, I hadn't made my mind up. I'm still. It's that kind of mishmash of a more cartoonish, like commercial cinema to make a point, but also it's deliberately not super realistic, but at the same time it has its foot in. It's an odd concoction, and I think that's what was throwing me off about it a little bit, because I wasn't quite. I was really caught up in trying to, with my critic's hat on and all that, and maybe I forgot to just kind of go with it, which you're a lot better at doing, right? So
I guess I also like I like The Godfather quite a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I think this is a more interesting film.
Well, apparently a huge inspiration on The Godfather as well.
Well, I did wonder, because obviously this predates it, you know.
Yeah, well, no, Coppola he said this film was an influence.
Because I think it's a much angrier film. Despite the broad strokes, despite the comedy leanings, I think at its heart, The Godfather is a very mawkish and very sort of sympathetic / kind of I think Godfather 2 maybe starts to move away from that a little bit, but I think the original Godfather is very sentimental and very nostalgic, you know.
Yeah, well, it is as well.
This is not.
No. The Godfather as well has its roots in this very trashy novel as well, and of course,
yes, right.
Coppola didn't want to make The Godfather for the longest time. He just wasn't into it at all, right? Which is interesting, because now it's maybe in more recent years, maybe Apocalypse Now is, but back in the day, I think people thought Coppola, they thought Godfather, right? That defined him, but it's the one film he didn't particularly want to make, right? But yeah, so we should mention, so interestingly, the same years, so 1962 is the year this comes out, and Salvatore Giuliano, right? The Rossi movie. Those are the two big kind of mafia films, kind of, and Salvatore Giuliano is the one that people remember more, I think.
Yes,
MAFIOSO. But they were both equally as kind of illuminating, I suppose, when they were. Obviously, it turns out, he's sent off to.
He has to do a favor, basically. He's cornered into a thing. What's interesting about that is that his family knows what's happening, and that they engineer it. They even create a situation where he's going to leave early, and they convince his wife that suddenly they make up with his wife and convince her to stay, because they know he has to do this for them to get the land that they want. His dad and mom basically fucking throw him under the bus and make him a murderer.
What's interesting as well is you realize, well, hang on now, this has even been sent. This is like almost like one of those that film Telephone, where Charles Bronson's searching out, you know, people who've been programmed, and they take the telephone call, and they like, they've been planning, not specifically for this maybe, but the people, the Don Vincenzo character has made sure that this character has been indebted to him by being sent off, and his education and everything. He is a sleeper out there, and at any time we can program you and we bring you back, and we need you to do something for us. But it's been planned decades in advance. Right? They don't know what job exactly, but they need him for something one day.
He's a potential soldier, or sleeper soldier. I mean, it's also worth mentioning this film is shot beautifully. Right? Like, just absolutely luminous black and white photography. It looks gorgeous, framed incredibly.
We forgot to mention as well, it's a Dino De Laurentiis production.
Yeah, and what's with that lion's massive balls on their original logo? That's astonishing that they were like, yo, that lion must be anatomically correct. Like, it's got a huge swinging pair on it. As I said, I'm prepared to go down right away, saying that I fucking really enjoyed this.
Well, when he's sent off to do his thing, so the only reason I can say it without, if you've seen it, you've seen it. There's one genuinely good gag in this film, and it's when they drop him off again, and so you cut basically from he's done this thing, and then he got crate interior, and then cut to the exact same quarry that they left him, and a truck with crate moves out of frame, revealing him clad in hunting gear.
Yes, with a rabbit.
Fish or a rabbit or something.
Yes.
I thought, okay. I laughed out loud. I thought, that's a good gag. And it also kind of indicative of the, like I said, the kind of strange mood of the film, where it's sometimes it's not shy about going for like that's all you need is a wow or something at that point, but it doesn't quite go far.
It's so pitch black, right? Because like the next scene is him crawling into bed with his wife
and sobbing,
and just sobbing. It's like you're like, holy fucking shit. And then the last scene is like him back at the factory floor again in the white coat, And then him going
I forgot to give your pen back.
Yeah, returning the pen, and the guy being like, "Oh, if there was more people like you in the world."
Yes.
And then he freezes,
looking admiringly at him, right? Like, oh, yeah.
And you're like, fuck me. That's that's Italy at its best right there.
But like I said, it's very much a cumulative. Like, if you're going to watch this film, there's no point you watching it if you're going to back out of it at any point. You have to commit and you have to watch the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Because if you just imagine if you just watched half of this.
Yes.
And then someone asked you, "Oh, did you see that Mafioso?" It was like, "Yeah, it's just some fucking comedy about people who eat too much
travelogue thing."
Yeah. But is that squid spaghetti?
Yes, squid.
Oh, right. Okay. How is that? I don't think I'd get on with that.
I haven't had it. It's very salty, like anything with squid ink is. So it's not.
I mean, I do like squid. But I don't know.
I've had squid ink ice cream.
Yeah, that was nice.
Up in Hokkaido once.
But that's tempered by the sweetness of
yeah.
I don't know if I'd go for. I just have to try it one day, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, no, I agree. I certainly don't disagree with you. But I just wonder about that. First two thirds, wondering if it might be slightly over. I had the same problem, oddly enough, with in a different way, but Miike Takashi's Audition, like because people love that film and they talk about how shocking it is and stuff, which is true to a certain extent. But for that film as well, I thought that first bit before it switches just went on that little bit too long, so that it's easy for an audience member, myself in the case of Mafioso, to start losing interest. And then when it starts to get interested, I but I almost wish as if it had captivated me throughout, but it did lose me a little bit. It didn't do that to you at all. You kind of went with that early part.
I guess I went in with no preconceived expectations.
Because you didn't know what was coming either, right?
No, not at all. I mean, I got the sense quite early on, like, in that as soon as he was sent to see the Dawn, I was like, oh, this is not going to turn out well. Somehow he's going to get involved in something,
right. But you didn't expect it to be that exactly.
No, not at all. No.
And plus, as well, as we know, in the true version of the story, you actually had never heard of this film before. And I, in fact, chose it.
Sure, if that's what you choose to remember, Clive. So do we even need to talk about this second film then, or can we just take it as read that you shouldn't watch this under any circumstances?
I feel as if if I don't talk about it, then why did I watch it?
Fair enough.
I think we should talk about your main choice and Nick's favorite new film, he told me. Bambina, or Le Faro de Padre, or I'll Take Her Like a Father, from again, amazingly by the same director. Although I suppose not that amazingly. I suppose you could argue that the broadness has always been there, right?
And I guess this is also a pitch black comedy of sorts.
Yeah, but this one doesn't work, I don't think.
No.
This is from 1974, and I believe for watching this film we are both on now some sort of register.
I think so.
Yeah, red flags have gone up.
Probably. The fact that we're talking about it publicly is definitely a mistake. It's the debut film of Teresa Ann Savoy, who would go on to meet Tinto Brass not long after this and appear in Salon Kitty and Caligula.
Yes, she's British. She is Teresa.
Yes,
and she was 18 when she made this. So, it's interesting as well. It's one of those things like fearless, I would imagine, by the time she met Tito Brass. Like, oh, is that all you want me to do? That's nice. I was in Bambina.
Exactly.
And even Tinto was like, I find it very distasteful. No, this Salon Kitty we make, it is a much more classy piece of work.
Exactly. Yeah, and apparently that like our main actor, like Gigi Prioetti, who plays Xavier, like he's in tons of shit, and also a famous voice like dubber as well in Italy. Like he dubbed Robin Williams' Genie performance in all of the all of their versions of Aladdin and so on. Yeah, Disney hired this fucking dude from Bambina.
Yes, of course. Why would you not?
To be the voice of Robin Williams in the Italian language print of Aladdin.
Yes. Yeah. So what's this about then, Nick? I'll make you to tell me.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So basically, you've got a sketchy, sort of scummy land developer guy called Saviero Mazzacoli, played by Gigi. He's
also a councillor, isn't he? His Batman keeps referring to him as councillor.
Yeah, so he must be in some way
it's a bit of a local bigwig, let's put it that way.
Yeah. But what he needs is, in order to proceed, he needs the blessing and the money and the land of a local countess, right?
Another land deal film, much like Mafioso.
Exactly.
Land deal at the center of it.
And it seems like this is also southern Italy as well. Like it's
yes.
Like this, you know, they're and she's played by Irene Papas, which is kind of you and I at least last saw in that Ray Lovelock.
Yeah, where she was basically the stand-in for Carol Baker, right?
Carol Baker, yes. Whichever one of those, the hippie one.
Greek
God,
actress, right? Irene Papas.
Now I'm just remembering who else is in that film. So,
there we go.
There we go.
Yes,
we have a theme going right now.
Technically, more dodgy, but nowhere as dodgy.
Yeah, content-wise.
Yes.
Anyway, so he.
Well, there's a dilemma. Here's an interesting dilemma for those of you inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Which is more morally reprehensible to knock one out to?
Yeah, they're both pretty high up there, that's for sure.
But you see what I mean? One is technically, you're fine.
Yeah. But really, are you though?
No.
So
let
anyway,
let us know.
One-handed
viewers.
Answers on a non-stained, self-addressed, postcard, please.
Yeah. We'll do a poll. Which one did you find most guilt? How much
guilty?
Sob afterwards?
Yes. So Gigi, or Saviero Mazzacoli, he attempts to seduce the countess, and he succeeds, except that he hasn't, because she's really seduced him. She has sex with him, and she tells him, I'm not giving you any money. Basically, no, she does. She says, I'll go in on the deal with you, but I want 70%. Right? So she basically screws him financially. And then she says, I know you're deeply in debt, and that if you don't get help, you're fucked. So he then comes up with the idea of like, well, so it turns out that Irene Papas, the countess, has a daughter who is in the film 16, I believe, and who has the mental age of 1? I wouldn't even say 2. I would say she seems to be like she's
very childlike, apart from the fact that she's also extremely horny.
Yes, she's developmentally very, very delayed, and yes, she certainly has.
But not in all other ways.
No. I mean, she's introduced in the film in a scene where it's her coming out day for her, like, because she's a countess's daughter, right? So it's her whatever that is, right? These rich people have debutante things, right?
Right.
And she lifts up her skirt to pee herself in full view of everybody, right? Yeah. That's when our main dude first sort of takes note of her.
Well, she is. So, hashtag hot mom.
That's a hashtag we want to catch on for sure, Clive. There's also there's a sketchy dude, like a politician or something like that, who's kind of also helping out our main character, right? He's in the deal too. He's the one who tells him, oh, the way to leverage this woman is not through trying to have sex with her. It's you want to use this.
He's gleeful as well. He's the one who's like, when he starts having a relationship with this girl, and he basically understands. So so you're basically fucking a child, but she's like really hot looking and she'll do whatever you want. And he's like, oh, it's the perfect girlfriend.
Yes.
He's like really into it, isn't he?
Yep, he is a piece of shit. So yeah, he's the one who basically says, yeah, the way to her money is through the daughter. So I can't remember if he does he. Yeah, he does. He goes and basically proposes the idea of marriage before, but then he has this plan that he's going to have. I mean, this is where like the comedy is just it's so funny, because what he does is he decides he's going to have her kidnapped and raped. Because that's comedy gold, right?
Well, because she'd be deflowered then, so then he's able to turn it, because that's how wrong-headed this film is, right? It's not in the beginning, he doesn't want anything to do with her. Not because it would be morally wrong, just like what it would be such a what a pest to be married to a retard or something like that, right? It's like that. And then the fact that he comes round to actually fall in love with her, like that's, I suppose, supposed to be I mean, it might be so pitch black that it's flying over my head that it's actually a deep satire, but unfortunately, I think this might have to be taken at surface.
I don't know either. We'll get to this question in a moment, actually, because he directed 2 other films apparently that touch on this same, not quite as extreme. This is the most extreme, but that do touch on something similar apparently.
Okay.
One is the one with Nastasia Kinski that he made a couple of years later. And apparently there's another one. He made 3 films that have this. Whatever it's called, in
the next episode of Film Craic.
So he decides he's going to have her kidnapped by he has a kind of a little spineless assistant guy, right? Pepe, played by a very sleazy Bruno Sereno, who I recognized immediately. I was like, I fucking know this guy from doing. He's in Cop in Blue Jeans. The great
classic.
Yes, yeah.
Much less problematic than Bambina.
It's fairly, yeah. So anyway, he has her kidnapped, but then somehow she ends up being taken instead of to some shack. She has to be taken back to his place. Oh yeah. So his in another hilarious scene, his bumbling assistant breaks into the Countess's house because he's left the door open. Our hero, breaks in with chloroform. Chloroform's an old lady, like the old maid, who, oh my God, there's an earlier scene because like our Clotilda, or whatever her name is, Clot, the teenager with the issues, she likes to pee a lot everywhere.
Pee and poop humor in that. Just in case they were like, this is a missing or something. This is not funny. We got the retard on. She's a kidnap and a rape. I think you agree. This is very amusing. But I know. Hang on. How about yes? Yeah. So there's some shit.
We get into full on Salo Pasolini territory by the time this thing finishes. But there is a scene where the old granny or whatever, is her maid or whatever, the lady who takes care of her is like shouting at her like pisha pisha pisha, and I started fucking superimposing George Eastman's sweaty fucking bearded face from Rabid Dogs, which you may remember. There's a scene where they force the poor girl.
Yeah, it goes a bit Last House on the Left, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's his main piece of dialogue in that scene is leering fate, like, and he's right up here in the camera, like pisha pisha.
I do apologize to all the viewers at home there,
especially the Italians.
Yes.
Although now that I think about it, should we be apologizing since?
No, I think our dodgy Italian accents are less offensive than
this film. Yeah, considerably so. So anyway, so she gets taken back to his place, and then he ends up like basically what happens is when he's trying to like calm her down, she starts sucking his thumb. And then basically he has this line where he's like, well, I'm only flesh.
Yes, yes, yes. And also, I liked how he turns the tables.
Oh, yes.
She says, one of his lines of dialogue in the translation says, you are raping me.
Me?
So he's already the victim. And yeah, what does he call that?
In like amused disbelief.
Yeah. That's a slutty little girl or something like that. Yep.
Oh, and then so he begins some sort of like relationship with her, which
but is the thing is the way she's filmed is that we're clearly supposed to have the hots for Teresa and Savoy, right?
Right.
And we do, because she's a fine looking, perfectly grown up woman, right?
Right.
But she just happens to be
playing
like that.
A 1-year-old.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And a fairly dysregulated 1-year-old. Yeah.
And also the other major character as well. So again, just in case you don't, there's not enough mixed messaging and you want to put some more kind of slightly erotic content, is his maid, right? Played by quite cute.
She is very attractive.
Lena Polito from Deported Women of the SS Special Edition, which is probably a less problematic film
than this somehow. Yes.
And she's also in a rather obscure Richard Harrison Eurocrime film, which I don't think has an English title. Napoli, I Cinque della Squadra Speciale. It's a Mario Bianchi one from 1978. I don't know. I thought you might have seen that one.
I might have a long time ago, but
it'll definitely be a fan sub if it's about, because I don't think it has an official. It doesn't have an official English title on the IMDb, which is rare. I mean, all those Eurocrime films have some sort of English title, but that one doesn't.
Okay, that's
are we looking at a Lena Polito double bill in our future?
Maybe, yeah.
No, but she is good, and yes, of course, when he's not having sex with the subnormal, he enjoys shoving his hands up her skirt anytime she's for a bit of a fondle, and she loves it as well. That's the thing. She's at no point does she ever tire of his grab assing.
Groping, yes, yeah.
Quite into
but then she does finally then hook up with Pepe, the guy, his assistant. He has had kidnapped this girl, and then the original plan was to have him sexually assault her, right? But then he hooks up with the maid, and then it basically sells her on the idea of like, well, I could totally be your pimp. And she seems to be, oh, that sounds like a great idea.
Because the grab assing stuff seems very much just of that era, like what's
Italian sex comedy shit.
Yeah, what's that Lucio Fulci? The senator loves asses, or the that one, that kind of thing, right? So that's
Lando,
the weird
Lando Buscana or whatever, like he could have.
Yeah, so that's the weird thing, is it seems like if this was a total outlier, that would be one thing, but it's the fact that it's trying to be a commercial piece of erotic comedy, I think, is where it's really problem. But again, I have to admit, quite dull. I actually did find this film quite boring. With occasional moments of going, oh, holy shit, and then just being
what am I watching
for a while.
But yeah, no, I would agree. I don't think it's a good film at all, and it's an astonishing step down from Mafioso, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, no, absolutely. Just interesting. Another one of I'm kind of interested in this Alberto Latuada now, because between Mafiosa and this, and then later on, in 1985, he made a mini-series. Is it a mini-series? Yeah, I think it's a mini-series about Christopher Columbus, starring Gabriel Byrne.
Okay.
I'd quite like to see Gabriel Byrne as Columbus, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of kind of sad, world-weary Christopher Columbus, right? Like my image of Gabriel Byrne is, look, a new continent we've never found, and Gabriel Byrne's like, oh Christ. Oh.
Have you ever seen that really disturbing video by the Rubber Bandits?
I am familiar with their work, yes.
Yes, yeah. There's a video they have which has a marionette Thunderbirds version of Gabriel.
Oh no, I haven't seen that one. Which song is that for?
I can't remember, but it's quite. I think it's about Gabriel Byrne. I think he's in the title of the song.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to
just Google Rubber Bandits. I still think they're whatever that song, like, you know, fuck your Subaru, I have a horse outside, or whatever the hell it's called.
Just genius, yeah.
Brilliant piece of rural Irish.
And if I'm not right, wasn't it like a Christmas #1 or something as well when it was new?
I think so.
Because he's what's his name? The guy with the it's not Bougie Boy, Blind Boy.
Yeah.
He has a very popular podcast now, doesn't he?
Yes, I've heard that, yeah.
Yes. And apparently because that is his voice. That is his natural voice, yes. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I this film leaves you with a lot of questions, you know, like who reads the script to this and is like, yes, I want to play that role. Like any of the male roles in this film, like, is there any of them that aren't complete scumbags? I don't think so.
I noticed one of the screenwriters on it as well also wrote for, among other things, What Have You Done to Solange?
Okay.
And Flavia the Heretic.
Also, yeah, that's not bad.
Balkan. I don't remember much about Flavia, but yeah, Solange.
No, it's okay. But the other one, Solange, is a great film.
No, but it is. The thing is, on the one hand, it does seem like it's the sort of film that's so wrong-headed that it demands a viewing, but it's boring.
Yeah,
it's boring. Above all else, it is actually quite boring.
Yes,
unless you have a particular, you're a huge Tira and Savoy fan. I can, there's enough of it to get you through it, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have.
Okay, so well, maybe I'll leave us with this. What I will say is, if it's true, the test pattern screen for RAI television has the best fucking Ananda Shankar raga stuff going on ever. There's all the scenes of Chloe at home, and she's just like, it's just the test pattern screen.
Oh yes,
from the TV with this rocking like sitar, like.
Yeah, I was wondering about
Hollywood, while she frigs off to pillows and various things.
But if it's not true, it's a very weird thing to have made up.
Yeah.
But then again, everything about the film is kind of not something that most people.
Not normal.
No.
Not okay. Yeah.
But sadly, not. I'm trying to think of. It's not commandingly wrong. Like something like, I don't know, what would be in the list of things that are like, that's not on, but fuck, this is awesome. I'm glad. Maybe we shouldn't list those films. But
yeah, probably not.
This isn't on that list.
No. But Anthony Wong is probably in one of them. Or two. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all this film is missing, is someone spitting in people's faces and shouting Ebola with a meat cleaver.
Exactly. So I guess the takeaway is don't see Bambina.
No.
If you want to stay off of all watch lists or heavenly,
don't watch our YouTube.
Don't watch our podcast either. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And, if you want to get through the pearly gates, stay away from that.
Stay from Nick.
If you do,
and his suggestions.
Yes. If you do want to see some pre-Godfather, Sicilian mafia stuff, I would say, check out Mafioso. I think it's a really interesting. I don't know if it fully works like you say. I think it's a strange beast.
But it's an interesting one. It certainly is interesting.
But it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I guess until next time then.
I'm only flesh, Clive. I'm only flesh.